What does this Sunbeam Alpine and the BMW Z3 have in common? They're both often forgotten Bond cars. But whereas Alpines are rocketing in value these days, BMW's Roadster remains remarkably affordable. So I thought I'd take a 2.2 facelift example for a drive to see why they're such a bargain.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So click the link below at the end of the video to enter their latest competition.
Following the launch and subsequent success of the Mazda MX5, car makers went Roadster crazy. It was suddenly clear there was an appetite for open-top motoring, bringing us back to the halcyon days of the 60s sports car. So, in early 1991, BMW set to work on their own version of the MX5, what we would now know to be the Z3. The styling was the work of Japanese designer Joji Nagashima, and he's used unashamedly retro inspiration. There are flashes of BMW 507 in here, so they've definitely reached into their back catalogue to give this car a welcome bit of glamour. I think the styling works really well. It stood out from the crowd. It had its own look. You didn't have to like it, but it was definitely distinctive. And to keep development costs down, it was based on the E36, sort of. A lot of it is E36, certainly the front end, but the back suspension and axle setup is straight out of an E30, so in many ways it's more like an E36 compact. The engines would be, from launch, 4-cylinder, 1.8 and 1.9. They would be later joined in 96 by a 2-litre 6-cylinder engine. 2.8 6-cylinder joined the range in 97, and a facelift come 99 saw the 1.9 become a 2-litre, 2-litre 6-cylinder become a 2.2, and the 2.8 6-cylinder to become a 3-litre. Got all that? Good. So the Z3 really sort of hit the ground running, identified a niche and developed it in that steady evolutionary way that BMW tend to. The significant thing about the Z3, of course, was that it was built solely outside of Germany, the first BMW to do so. Brand new factory in South Carolina was built for the purposes of the Z3, and loads of other models followed afterwards. They knew that the key to success for the Roadster in terms of sales would be the North American market. So having it built in North America was inspiring. If you look inside, you can see the sort of mixture of E36 and E30. The column stalks are straight out of an E30, as are some of the ventilation controls, but then some of the other switchgear is definitely E36 inspired. It's got a simplicity about it which I really like. It's good quality as well. And what's it like to drive? It's actually really good. I think when the car came out, people were initially sort of a little bit scathing of the fact that it was such a cynical development, you know, based on the E36 compact was not exactly the best origins. And yet from an economic point of view, it was probably absolutely crucial that it did that. It does feel light and nimble, agile. You do want to take this for a run down a B road, and that rather archaic E30 back suspension setup means it will bite you in the wet in particular, but it will ride and handle as good as any Roadster of this ilk. The Z3 is a really competent all-rounder. Competent all-rounder does sound quite damning, doesn't it, for a sporting Roadster, but if you really want to get out and enjoy a car every day, it's something that you really do want. It's comfortable, it's easy to drive, and it will tackle long journeys with aplomb. The 1.9 4-cylinder is all the car you ever need in terms of power and performance, but there's something about the 6-cylinder engine. It just sounds glorious. It's not a stressed engine, it's just relaxed, smooth. You can amble along as we are now and just enjoy the scenery, or if you really want to drop down a cog and put your foot down, it will do that with a lovely distinctive burble. Oh, it just sounds great. After all this time, I still think it's a really underappreciated Roadster, an underappreciated BMW. We all think of the Teutonic excellence of things like the E36 and the E39 3 and 5 series, and even the car that replaced this, the E85 Z4. But the Z3 is actually a really good car. I think it looks good, it's aged well, they're really generally quite reliable. All the parts are readily available because they're interchangeable with their saloon and hatchback brethren. And there's one other absolute boon about these things. They're still really affordable, because I think they do get overlooked by perhaps more glamorous opposition from the Porsche Boxster, the Honda S2000, and more plentiful competition like the Mazda MX5. The Z3 does get looked past somewhat, and yet no matter whether you go for a 4 or 6-cylinder model, the Z3 is a really decent Roadster. When BMW set their own sales targets, they were only expecting to sell about 100,000 of them. So the fact that it sold nearly 300,000 is testimony to how good it was. The Z3's appearance in Pierce Brosnan's James Bond GoldenEye probably helped initial sales, but in truth that was just tokenist product placement, and I think the Z3 stands on its own without needing movie star status. On a day like this with the roof down, Can't think of many other cars I'd rather be in. Yeah, don't rule out the Z3. It's a fabulous roadster.
This video is proudly sponsored by Lancaster Insurance. Give them a call on 01480 400 889 for an insurance quote on your classic car. And don't forget to click the link below to enter their latest competition.